Well, welcome to Monday. You know what? It is June already. It is June 2nd. And oh, by the way, it's also Meatloaf Monday. Hit me some meatloaf, dude.
I think I'll try the meatloaf sandwich.
Do you know what that is?
Yes, meatloaf.
What is it? I'm only asking in case I have to describe it later to a doctor.
Look, it's nutritious. It's delicious.
Made out of meat. Add ketchup if you want. I couldn't care less.
Ugh, I'm saying. And now I'm hungry. Meatloaf Monday. JP on the board. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
You have never gone down to Pruitt's and gotten the meat and three with meatloaf on Monday, have you?
I haven't gotten the meat. I went to Little Pruitt's once. I got a barbecue sandwich. No,
That's not the same.
I've not gone to Big Pruitt's and gotten a meatloaf.
You gotta go to Big Pruitt's. Big P, got to go Big Pruitt's, get you some meatloaf.
I guess I do.
How'd your weekend go?
It was good. A lot of golf on Saturday from just wanting to go and hit balls, and then Sunday I got home from church and woke up 3 hours later. So I was like, oh, but that I guess
That's a perfect day of rest.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it was good.
All right, good deal. Listen, I'd love to say I did nothing.
Yeah.
But I think I just about broke myself as a man trying to do yard work on Saturday.
You told me about that, yeah.
All right, hey, we got a great show laid on for you. Hey, coming up at 2:30, a little earlier than usual, but coming up halfway through hour number one, a guy named Matt Murphy, who used to do radio in Birmingham, who is now like the talk radio guru in Nashville. Matt and I have known each other for a few years. We've been sparred on the air once in a while, but Matt Murphy's got his own show with Cumulus Broadcasting out of Talk 99.7, Super 97. What do they call this? Super Talk 99.7 out of Nashville. And we'll get him on at 2:30 because lo and behold, the mayor of Nashville has decided it'd be a great idea in a red state to set up a sanctuary city. Awesome. We're going to talk to Matt Murphy at halfway through hour number one. And then I still got a triple dipper. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right. The Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate. Listen, I'm just saying anarchy must stop. It must. Anarchy has to stop. And when I say anarchy, I'm talking about lawlessness. And when I'm saying lawlessness, I'm actually talking about leaders who are elected or appointed to serve our communities who then decide not to enforce the laws. And I'm going to unpack that in detail here over time. But yeah, number one, Triple Dipper, anarchy must stop. Number 2, I'm getting to one I didn't get to on Friday. But you know what? I don't want you to think that everything is bad because it's not, because we're fixing stuff. We are watching what we voted for happen on a daily basis. So I'm talking about fixing some jackassery. That's number 2 on the Triple Dipper. Fixing jackassery. We're going to fix some stuff, and we are fixing some stuff, and some stuff's been fixed. Fixing that jackassery, number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, I got to say, there's some things happening around the world right now that are deeply concerning, not the least of which is what happened just this past weekend in the war between Ukraine and Russia. Good Lord. And at the same time, all this past weekend, I've got stories about what's happening with China in the South China Sea and freedom of navigation for American ships. I've got stuff related to Syria. I've got stuff related to Palestine. I've got stuff related to Ukraine. And I've got stuff related to Iran. And I'm talking about all of it in the last few days. Number 3 on the Triple Dipper is going to be called Wars and Rumors of Wars. So stand by for that. All right, let me jump on into the Rightside Way opening monologue. I will remind you guys that attorney Stan McDonald is indeed the daily sponsor of the Rightside Way monologue. And he's a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, a 30-year veteran of the practice of law. And I'll tell you more about Stan here momentarily. All right, so let me just kick it off by saying that a very disturbing story emerged in the news yesterday. You've likely seen it. Yesterday in Boulder, Colorado, a deranged man attacked a group of seniors who were gathered in a public setting for an event to support the Jewish community. 8 people, ranging in ages from 52 to 88 years old, were set on fire by Mohammed Salman, an illegal alien. Did you hear me say it? An illegal alien from Egypt, while he was yelling, "Free Palestine," setting them on fire. Look, one of those victims is reported to have been a Holocaust survivor from World War II. Now, again, this is an ideological crime. It's a hate crime by some descriptions, an act of terror by a man who was led into our country by the lawless Biden administration, who then resided in a sanctuary city, in a sanctuary county of a sanctuary state. And now 8 people are in the hospital, with more than one of them in critical condition. Charges have already been filed for murder. We've not been told that any of the victims died, but there's a murder charge, so you have to wonder. And add to this storyline, by the way, the fact that just 3 weeks ago, the Colorado State Legislature actually passed a state law, a sanctuary law, that limits the sharing of immigration information and cooperation between local and state officials and schools with federal immigration authorities. Basically, the state of Colorado just set itself up to officially defy federal law. And 8 people are in the hospital now. Now, while I certainly blame the attacker, I got to tell you, I also hold the anarchist leaders of those communities responsible as well for setting up a scenario where apparently laws mean nothing. Look, we're a nation of laws. We are. And being a nation of laws is not about somebody's agenda. It's about good order and discipline. It's about freedom. It's about the preservation of life, limb, and property. And the day that we decide, or anyone decides, that some laws should be enforced while others can be ignored, that's a day we become a lawless place. And we will be what the Army called a fire and forget. So let me explain fire and forget phrases. All right, just bear with me here. If you've ever had any experience with firearms, you know what it means to reload. In military training, there's two forms of reloading. There's the kind that comes from realizing your chamber is now empty, and there's the kind that comes from taking advantage of a pause in the shooting to make sure your chamber never gets empty. In any event, you train on reloading almost as much as you train on accuracy. And then you train on correcting a malfunction, or sometimes called a stoppage. You're firing your weapon. Suddenly you have a jam, a misfire, a crossload. What do? You clear the weapon, check the chamber, reload, re-engage. In basic training, a soldier will spend as much time almost training how to load, unload, and clear a malfunction as he or she will on putting actual rounds down range. Why? Because how accurate you are with your weapon means absolutely nothing if you can't keep your weapon system ready and functional. If you can't keep a round ready to fire. If you can't put a malfunctioning weapon back into service. If you can't do those things, then all you have is what the Army calls a fire and forget weapon system. So in the military vernacular, fire and forget is just what it sounds like. It's a single-use, one-shot weapon. You shoot it one time and you discard the tube. Just one and done. You go get another one because that one served its purpose. You may have seen the bazooka in the old war movies, right? It's a metal tube that fired a rocket-propelled explosive. Once it was fired, you could reload it and fire again. One of the closest examples of the modern bazooka is what we call a law, a light anti-tank weapon. And a law is a fire and forget weapon. Both of them fired a round that was comparable to the other, but once the law was fired, the tube became dead weight, no further use. It was a fire and forget weapon, a one and done. Go get another one. So why am I telling you this? Because it's an analogy, my friends. What I'm saying right now today is I don't want the United States of America to be a fire and forget nation. I don't. One and done. I don't want it. Go get another one. No, we can't. In the grand scheme of things, the U.S. is still a fairly young country on the world stage, not quite 250 years old. There's apartment buildings in Europe that are older than our nation. 1/3 of our states were added to the Union in the second half of our short existence. The most recent ones, Hawaii and Alaska, were still just territories in World War II. But despite our relatively young status, we are a force to be reckoned with militarily. We have an industrial complex that's far greater than half the world combined. We have a gross domestic product that is the envy of the world. We have resources beyond compare. We have military strength greater than any other, and we have a land size on a scale that is epic by comparison to most. Most importantly, we have rights. We have rights. We have actual liberties. The ability to know that we as citizens of the United States can expect our every day to have some measure of success, if for no other reason than the fact that we have certain inalienable rights that no one should be allowed to ever take away. But right now, there's a movement afoot, both from external and internal forces, to diminish who we are as both a nation and a people. And the question before us now is whether or not we're going to be able to clear this malfunction and reload and re-engage. Or if America is going to turn out to be a fire and forget nation, incapable of addressing the threats to our existence. It's a question, really, of whether or not as a nation we can reload and re-engage. Like within our own borders, we find one of the biggest threats to our rule of law, and that's the illegal mass immigration that changed the landscape of major swaths of American population centers. I mean, concern is rising about the ability to sustain essential services due to the mass influx of people who arrived without a common language or even a means to support themselves. Crime, disease, strains on systems, unrest that U.S. communities are facing due to the massive influx of illegals is actually straining our systems in some places. And we need to clear that malfunction and get our systems back in play. But look, the ability to restore good order and preserve our nation's standing as a nation of laws is not just about deporting those who came here illegally. I mean, that's certainly part of it, but that's only one part of it. Deporting the illegals is like clearing the stoppage on your weapon. The weapon malfunctions, you pull back the charging handle, you observe a round stuck in the chamber, so you clear it out. Okay, picture deportation as clearing out the round. But if it happens again and again, then you have to address not just the fact that bad rounds are jamming, but that there may be an issue with your weapon that's causing it. In the case of illegal immigration, one of those issues causing our society to jam and harm to come to our citizens is that we have whole cities, counties, states committed to the misguided anarchy of sanctuary status, just flaunting our laws, disregarding and even impeding law enforcement efforts, all to the detriment of law-abiding citizens. So the laws of this nation should mean something. I believe that. An elected leader takes an oath at every level, from town council to Congress, from mayor to president. They all take a very similar oath of office. You listen to them next time. Doesn't matter whether it's your dog catcher. When they get sworn in, it is to faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office, to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, and to enforce the respective laws or ordinances of the community they are there to support and serve. They do. Every single one of them takes an oath like that. And too often, though, far too often, we watch as so-called leaders decide that their notions, their agendas, their political party, their pandering base needs them to be selective about which laws to actually enforce. It doesn't work that way. If you don't like the laws, go change the laws, but you can't merely ignore the laws. And right now, 8 people are hospitalized in Boulder, Colorado, because of a man who was not even supposed to be here. A man who decided that hate for people of faith should be acted on. And the reality is, the people who set up that sanctuary community status, they are as much at fault, in my opinion. They are part of the reason why the weapon keeps malfunctioning. They are part of the reason why we have to keep clearing the stoppage. So yeah, we got to be able to clear the malfunctions as quickly as a soldier can clear their weapon, reload for the next shot, re-engage the enemy. Think about it. What good is a weapon if you cannot put it to use at the proper time? And don't think that just because it can shoot once means you're going to stay in the fight. A good soldier has to be able to clear the malfunction without pausing, reload the weapon, and re-engage the target. And America, as a nation, must be able to do the same. We must clear the malfunctions that are degrading our national security. We must restore the cultural and the moral issues that are causing our nation's malfunctions. We must reload and re-engage. The way we do that is to ensure that laws are meaningful and meaningfully enforced. America cannot become a fire and forget nation. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Yeah, there it is. I mean, think about it. The reality is it's like the whole last 4 years was one giant weapons malfunction, if you will. It's like we couldn't get the rounds cleared out. The bottom line was the biggest problem was the weapon itself was struggling. In this case, our nation was struggling. And we have jackwagons right now who are running whole cities, counties, and states, calling sanctuary status still the order of the day. That's called anarchy, and it needs to stop. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Man, saving the world one soundbite at a time. I got to tell you about attorney Stan McDonald. And by the way, before I do that, I'll just remind you guys, text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Still got issues with the internal phones around here. Can't explain it. We're working all we can to get this worked out. But can't call in yet, but you can certainly go ahead and text in. We take the text messages on a regular basis. Please do. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. So Stan McDonald, yes, sir. Stan McDonald is the sponsor daily of the Rightside Way monologue. And he's been a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee for a while now. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law overall. Not only is Stan McDonald the kind of guy that can very successfully and adequately attack your legal needs, but he's been an absolute warrior on the conservative policies and politics that right-side ruffians care about now for years. So yeah, attorney Stan McDonald, he has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions. He knows how to represent you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to always say, if Stan McDonald's on your side, you are going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So yeah, you need a lawyer in North Alabama. Let me just tell you, I'm going to give you his phone number. Stan McDonald, law firm is Wilmer and Lee. The number is 256-479-3020. That's 256-479-3020. Tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. I would appreciate that. Okay, here we go. No representation made. The quality legal service be informed is great. Quality legal service for the lawyers. Shabam. What do I do?
Man, I guess that's another 10.
Step back in amazement.
I think the very minimum's a 9.9 right there.
Okay, I'll take it. Text lines. You had one on Twitter. What do you got over there?
Yeah, we got Kit from Morgan County on the X live streams. It's so very well said, Phil. So many need to realize this. Those creating these malfunctions need to be held accountable in the courts and at the polls.
Outstanding.
Also, John from Huntsville on the YouTube live stream says, "Happy Meatloaf Monday, Phil and JP."
Absolutely. I think that same John from Huntsville's already texted on the text lines too. He says, "Spectacular monologue." Also, because it's him when we hear the also. Also, Phil, did you hear that crazy activist Greta Thunberg joins the aid ship to Gaza Strip? By the way, JP, I think you had to give up on your Braves making the playoffs this year. All right, which one do we want first? Do we want Greta Thunberg first, or do you want the Braves first?
I mean, well, I'll just say I've given up a while ago on the Braves, so we can just move on.
And I've given up on Greta Thunberg.
There we go. We can move on from both now.
I mean, they're both in chucklehead status right now.
Oh yeah.
So Greta Thunberg. I mean, what a misguided soul that really is, and I think she just chases anything that is counterculture.
Yep.
That's what she does.
Absolutely. Anything that is going to make her seem like, I don't know, bucking the system and like a young social justice warrior. She's on it either way. So yep.
Got to stay relevant. Got to be out there in the mix. All right, more texts. And then coming up right after the break here, we got Matt Murphy coming in from up in Nashville. Nashville. Problem. I'll be honest with you. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you right side ruffians out there, you are listening to Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just point. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Man, covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all will talk about this show. It goes from like Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back to Gadsden, all the way down to that lovely little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border, what we now call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. Hey, somebody else who covers a lot of ground, and he has been like tearing up the airwaves around the Southeast for a while now, is a friend of mine, Matt Murphy. Matt Murphy did like a 19-year stint on the airwaves in Birmingham. He's a Cumulus broadcaster. He is now with Super Talk 99.7 WTN out of Nashville, host of the Matt Murphy Show. Going on the air in about 25 minutes. I want to get him because I want to hear about this jagger that they've got in Nashville, who has decided he's going to be a sanctuary city mayor in a red state. So that being said, let me stop talking and bring on my friend Matt Murphy. Matthew, how you doing, buddy?
Phil, it is a pleasure to be on with you. It's an honor to be on Right Side Radio. You're growing by leaps and bounds, and for good reason, because you speak common sense to people who are ready to receive it.
Thank you, man. Remind me to pay you later. That'd be good. Hey, listen, I mean, you guys, you know the deal. You've been around doing this a whole lot longer than I have. And you get to talk to things. Sometimes it's national, sometimes it's international, but man, you've got a local situation going on right now with the mayor of Nashville, who has decided Nashville wants to be a sanctuary city under his leadership. Give us a skinny on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy what Mayor Freddie O'Connell is doing. Just to give you a little bit of background, Freddie O'Connell was a city councilor in Metro Nashville for quite some time. Metro Nashville, for reasons unbeknownst to me, for years they have had 40 different counselors, and that creates these little districts that are super liberal. They have more city councilors than any other municipality outside of Chicago and New York City, Phil. And actually the state legislature, first year I got here, passed a law to reduce that from 40 to 20 because they recognize that the more cats that they have to herd on the city council, sadly, those cats become more and more socialist in some of these little enclaves in the city. That to say, Freddie was a city councilor for a long time, ran as mayor when John Cooper decided that he would not run. I think Cooper was actually term limited, and was elected. And as many cities recognize in the South, even in the bright red South, cities like Birmingham and to a lesser degree, Huntsville, but Montgomery, they're little blue dots, right? And Nashville is a blue dot. There's no question. Freddie O'Connell ran on being a centrist, and he is certainly not governing that way. He refuses to address the crime problems that we have in this city. He refuses to pass contracts or to pass contracts on to the city council involving license plate readers, which is something that could clean up a lot of crime. He refuses to embrace the FUSIS system. So I just give you these as examples of how he has shown his true colors before now. And when ICE and the Tennessee Highway Patrol teamed up to conduct several operations in an area that was prone to crime, an area that is known to be the biggest issue or the problem area with illegal immigration in the community. The Tennessee Highway Patrol set up some stops. They arrested about 200 people. Most of those people were found to have criminal records beyond their illegal status in the United States of America. Some of them had criminal records such as sex trafficking, child endangerment, child abuse, drug trafficking. I mean, these are the worst of the worst that Joe Biden's administration allowed to come over here. And instead of saying, hey, good job, Tennessee Highway Patrol, appreciate what you do, good job, ICE, Freddie decided that they were the bad guys and came out in a press conference the next day and denounced what they were doing, said that they, quote unquote, don't make our cities safer, which is ridiculous. It most certainly did make our cities safer. And I've argued, Phil, that even if we disagree on the issue of illegal immigrants and what to do with them. This makes the illegal immigrant community safer because these are the people that were preying on the very illegal immigrants that Freddie claims
Absolutely.
that he wants to support.
Absolutely.
So this is making our entire community safer. But then he doubled down on it, Phil, and he published names of ICE agents on a Metro government website. And I think that's what blew this story up on the national level. And I think that is what he doxed them. And Tennessee law prevents the doxing of law enforcement agents in terms of their addresses or their known whereabouts. It does not say anything specifically about name only, but Freddie O'Connell has done something that I think has drawn the ire not only of our state government officials, which, by the way, I had Cameron Sexton on my show last week, Speaker of the House of the state of Tennessee, and I asked him to do a full audit of Nashville, Tennessee, because I want to know how much of our tax dollars are going to fund illegal alien activity in this city. But by the reports that I'm hearing from inside of government, some of my sources in there, it is in the millions of dollars, Phil. So we're going to try to get to the bottom of that too.
Well, you're not the only one calling for an investigation right now. Apparently, two of the members of the Tennessee delegation, Mark Green and Andy Ogles, are both calling on Congress to do calling on Congress to do straight up investigations. We're looking at the House Homeland Security Committee doing an investigation. I've seen reports that says that basically the Department of Homeland Security is ticked off and calling this out. So yeah, I mean, you dox. Let me ask you this. Let me just back up. What is he saying in his own defense about doxing law enforcement agents? Is he responding to inquiries, or is he mum's the word and not saying anything about it?
Well, he's not responding to us at Super Talk. I've had Freddie on the show and have had what I would describe as, a relatively friendly relationship. I mean, we disagree on just about every issue, but he's willing to come on and face the fire. But he has shut me down, certainly, Phil. And you know how that goes. When the heat's on, suddenly they are persona non grata. Well, here's the deal. Freddie came out the 2 days after it was discovered that, and all due credit, by the way, a television reporter by the name of Karen Aguilar discovered these names. She's with Fox 17 in Nashville, and I give her due credit. They won't give us credit when we break stuff, but we'll give those TV guys credit when they break stuff, right? So she broke the story originally. 2 days later, Freddie comes out and says it was a quote-unquote mistake. Well, that just opens up a litany of other questions. Okay, what was the mistake? Who made the mistake?
Yeah.
How was the mistake made? And why? And see, here's the thing. Freddie signed an executive order a couple of days after this investigation, the ICE raids were announced, saying that any interaction between the Metro Nashville Police Department or any other agency of the city of Nashville with ICE was to be within 24 hours reported directly to the mayor's office.
Right.
So my question is, why? Why was that so important to him? And was that the reason that he wanted to out these people on a Metro Nashville website? Now it's that old saying, throw a rock and hide your hand. He's trying to hide his hand after he threw the rock. So, I mean, he has opened up so many different questions. And look, I applaud these investigations. We had Senator Blackburn on Friday. She has gone directly to the Attorney General, asking the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to investigate the mayor and get to the bottom of how these names appeared on the website. So far, his one-word answer for that, Phil, was mistake.
That's it. One word.
That's it.
Let me ask you this in terms of other mistakes, but as an attorney, I look at it, we call it the totality of the evidence, right? Sometimes when you put three things together, you realize you got one big thing. And in this case, I've got an article here from Fox that says that not only is he doing these things with executive orders and saying that we will not cooperate with ICE and then doxing these the law enforcement agents. I've also got this piece here that says that he also helped launch a Nashville nonprofit called the Belonging Fund that helps pay for illegal immigrants' needs. And some say what he's really doing is potentially even using government dollars to pay for helping them to remain in a sanctuary status. What do you know about this nonprofit that he's a part of?
So this Belonging Fund was started during COVID-19, utilized city money along with private donations. And what was told at the time, and I was not here at the time that it was created, but what was told at the time was that it was for legal immigrants. It was for illegal Americans and indigenous peoples, or new Americans, I guess was the phraseology, new Americans and indigenous peoples. And the focus was to be on helping those who are here legally integrate into the city of Nashville and, generally speaking, into American society, which sounds all great. But in reality, what we are being told on the ground is that they are funneling money through this belonging fund out of the city and getting it directly into the hands of illegal aliens and attorneys for illegal aliens who are attempting to defend them. And it is literally funding their defense to try to stay in the United States of America illegally. And that's one of the reasons that I called for the forensic audit by the state on the city of Nashville, because in addition to every other financial issue that Nashville seems to have, we need to find out exactly what money went where. And you know how they do, Phil. You've been involved in government so long. They pour that money into a big old pool, and then they scoop some money out at the end of the pool, and then they pretend like it's not the same money. And we know very well it is. And so we're going to try to get to the bottom of
it's that fancy word, fungible. It's a great Scrabble word. What it really means is you commingle the funds and use it for whatever you want to. Well,
Amen.
Listen, yeah, you're right. We do have blue spots. I mean, sometimes people freak out when they realize how bad Mayor Randall Woodfin is in Birmingham. But you've got, I mean, I don't think he's had anything going on compared to what you've got right now up in Nashville. And I look at the incident that occurred yesterday in Boulder, Colorado. That was 3 weeks after the Colorado legislature passed a law that created more sanctuary opportunities. And you've got a Boulder, Colorado, and a county they're in, and the state they're in, all in sanctuary status. And now we got 8 people in the hospital with burns from this madman who shouldn't have been here because he was illegal. And I don't know if the mayor of Nashville recognizes what he's doing, but the truth is Mayor Freddie O'Connell is actually enabling the opportunity for bad things to happen.
Amen. And sadly, the type of language that Freddie O'Connell uses is filtering to some of our other communities in the metro area. I'll give you an example. Laverne, the Laverne community, which has its own mayor, its own police department, et cetera, it's its own city. They held a press conference about a week after, and the tone of the press conference was, hey, we don't have any communication with ICE. We don't have any communication with the Tennessee Highway Patrol. We're not talking to those folks. Don't you worry. And my take was, why in the world
why would you
is
not?
your tone insinuating that the police are the bad guys? The police aren't the bad guys here. And Freddie O'Connell did the same thing, suggesting that Tennessee Highway Patrol or ICE being in Nashville makes, quote, the community less safe. And it's quite the opposite. They make the community more safe. And you are giving that wink and a nod to the bad guys that we don't like these folks either, and come on in and do what you will. I think you're exactly right. I think these things are interrelated. What you see in Boulder, what you've seen from the mayor in Nashville, all point to the same place, is that, ignore the law, don't worry about the police, and we'll have your back if you have some sort of negative interaction with them.
Well, hey, brother, we got to leave it there. I know you got your own show starting in about 10 minutes-ish, but I appreciate your time, and I want to stay in touch on it, okay?
Anytime, Phil. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and say hey to everybody in Alabama for me.
All right, we'll do it. That's Matt Murphy, host of the Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN out of Nashville, and we'll have him back on again. But anyway, thanks, Matt. All right, we'll take a break. Wow. Can you imagine? That's Nashville. That's Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville. And you got a super liberal, progressive mayor creating sanctuary status for one of the greatest cities in the nation. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Got a bunch of text messages. By the way, some of y'all are letting us know that apparently our flagship station out of Huntsville, WVNN, it's 770 AM, 92.5 FM. Anyway, if you're one of those who listens to them on their iHeart app, it is down. Obviously you can't hear me on the iHeart app as I say this, but just always, all of y'all be aware. We are online right now, and a bunch of y'all are watching, streaming, picking the show up on either YouTube, on X, on Facebook, on our website, rightsidemedia.org. So all I'm saying is if the app is down and you're not near the actual radio itself, probably the best thing you could do is just stream it online with us. Go to YouTube, man. Go to our website, rightsidemedia.org. There's actually a big old red live button at the top of the page. Click on it and takes you right to the date and just click on the show. Anyway, all I'm saying is they may be down, but we ain't. So stay with us. Jeff from Indiana, though, just texted in and said the app appears to be running again. Well, okay.
Allegedly.
I have no explanation. Bobby from Huntsville just texted in. He says, Phil, I can't believe what I just heard about Nashville. Just when I was thinking about going up there to enjoy some of the new entertainment complexes that are there, I hear this, and now that's made up my mind. I will not be going to Nashville anytime soon. You know, and I'll tell you, Bobby, I kind of feel the same way, except at the same time, I do love Nashville. And
Nashville's awesome.
I think Nashville, I don't know that reflects Nashville proper, but it's amazing to me that people like that keep getting elected. And so I don't have an explanation for you. But the Grand Ole Opry and some of the entertainment venues, the restaurants, and then, you know, I've got friends that live in Franklin and around the area. I mean, it's still an epic city. We've got to reclaim the politics, though. That's all there is to it. Got to reclaim those politics. Penny from Athens, watching on Rumble. Thank you, Penny. Chris from Gadsden says, I'm hearing you right now on the right side. I'm hearing you on the iHeartRadio app. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, we apparently just came back up, so that's all good. John from Lexington, South Carolina says the same thing. Kevin from Huntsville says, what is the truth behind I don't know. Kevin, I'm not even talking about that. He wants to know about, I don't know, but Kevin, I haven't looked into it all. So I can't answer that question, brother. Don't know. John C. from Madison says, excellent monologue, but have you ever had a pop and no kick? I have, and it's strange. Maybe once. And then Brian from Decatur says, why is the Colorado terrorist allowed to have bail or bond at all? He was given a $10 million bond. Since when are terrorists offered that at all? I don't know, but it's Colorado, so that may explain part of it. So yeah, we'll dissect that here a little bit. What you got?
Who was it? Well, I don't know. I believe it was the Boulder police chief or somebody like that was at the scene said it's too early to say that this was a terrorist attack. And it was like right after it happened. And it's like, come on, man.
Now, I will say this. I think he said it's too early in terms of the hate crime. Did he say hate crime or terrorist?
I thought it was terrorist. It could have been either or, but either way, it's pretty obvious in my opinion. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, part of it, I will say this. There are actual legal definitions, like not just like you and I talking, but like if you go to the state code or the US code, the definition of terrorism will have a specific set of guidelines that have to have been met for it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I don't know. Maybe he was talking from the legal perspective, or maybe he's a jackwagon.
I guess when I saw the Colorado police chief saying that, my initial gut reaction was, "Come on, you know, like you're Colorado." I guess I expect that from Colorado at this point.
You know what's crazy is Colorado. So I've spent a bit of time there, and I used to work for Young Life Ministries, which is based out of Colorado Springs. We have Focus on the Family, Young Life, Campus Crusade. I've forgotten what else, but there were a number of these like major evangelical ministries, all based out of Colorado Springs. The Air Force Academy is there, and you look at it and go, that ought to be a conservative state. And their politics over the last 20 years have progressed so far to the left that it may be right up there with like Seattle. I mean, like Washington State and Oregon. It's just in parts of, you know, like San Francisco and the Bay Area.
It's unfortunate because it is such a beautiful state.
Oh my gosh.
You know, maybe if they just put the joint down for like 2 seconds, they'll they'll open their eyes a little bit.
Wait, I got to do. You don't even need it. You just walk down the street in Colorado Springs, and like the secondhand smoke alone will make it fail a drug test. All right, coming right back. I'm in this number one of the Triple Dipper. The anarchy must stop. The anarchy must stop. And I'm going to tell you some more stories that'll just curl your hair. What you heard about Nashville a minute ago, that's not the only place. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. conservative and just plain right. Well, let's spend a little more time, y'all, here in hour number 2 on a Meatloaf Monday. Spend a little time on Dipper number 1, talking about anarchy must stop. So to bring you up to date on what we know, you've heard me talk about it some already, but the situation in Boulder, Colorado, the story there's basically 2 stories in one here. On the one hand, you have what it was 6 at first, but now I believe it's 8 victims of a man who used incendiary devices to light people on fire. Now, what were they doing? Were they violent protesters too, and they got into a scuffle? No, these were elderly citizens, one of whom was a Holocaust survivor. They were a Jewish support group that literally gathers once a week to run and walk in silence, mind you, in silence. They just walk silently in support of the fact that there are still 50 some odd Hamas hostages right now being held. It's a solidarity walk is all it is. And they've been doing it now since October of 2023, every Saturday. This year, or maybe it's Sunday. This year, they're met by a guy named Mohammed Sabri Salman, 45, an illegal alien. He came here, by the way, in 2022 on a work visa of some kind. His work visa expired in February of 23. At some point thereafter, he applied for quote unquote asylum under the Biden administration's relaxed guidelines. I guess he was scared to go back to Egypt. Like Egypt's a really scary place, but he was scared to go back to Egypt, so he was granted asylum by the Biden. Of course he was. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, he was on September 29th of 2022. He filed a claim possibly for asylum. So he's overstayed his visa. He's an illegal alien. He's also an absolute activist. So while screaming things like "Free Palestine," he set people on fire. That's a massive story. That's an anti-Semitism story. That's a innocent people have been hurt story. Here's the other piece of this. That anarchy, that willingness to light people on fire, literally, happened by allowing an illegal alien to stay, first of all. He was in a city, in a county, in a state, all of which declare themselves to be sanctuaries for illegal aliens. In other words, they enabled that presence, that anarchy they created, that opposition to the idea of the enforcement of actual laws, enabled a guy who shouldn't have even been here to feel emboldened enough to do what he did. And then you add that to the fact that Boulder, Colorado sits in a state that just 3 weeks ago, according to KDVR News out in Colorado, 3 weeks ago, Colorado Democratic lawmakers pushed ahead on immigration bills, despite the U.S. Department of Justice filing a lawsuit to challenge those laws. They went ahead and passed it, House and Senate. It's called the Protect Civil Rights Immigration Status. What does that even mean? Protect civil rights immigration status. They're illegals. They're not supposed to be here, but the bill literally prevents state and local law enforcement in the state of Colorado from cooperating with ICE. And it does not allow any school system to cooperate with ICE. So you tell me who's at fault. I think it's a double. I think the anarchy was created by a community bunch of activist leaders who let it happen. By the way, it's all over Colorado. I've got a piece here. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. KDVR, again, same storyline or same news source, has a story that says that on Thursday, when was this? May 31st. Okay, this has just happened. Last Thursday, the Department of Homeland Security released a list of more than 500 jurisdictions across the country. And there are scads of them in Colorado. Scads that are declared sanctuary cities or sanctuary counties. Boulder is on the list. There you have it. But it ain't just there, man. I mean, look, remember last week we had my friend Bunny Pounds came on the show on Friday. Was it Friday? It was Friday, wasn't it? Bunny Pounds, who has a group called Christians Engaged. Christians Engaged was she was called to be a speaker at a prayer and worship rally in a downtown park in Seattle. And so she went, and she was shocked when she got there to find that there were, in her words, anywhere between 500, sometimes more like 1,000 protesters that were there, and they were violent. 28 of them or more got arrested. The Christians were being basically persecuted, not just by the protesters, but by the city officials. They weren't even supposed to be in that park originally. They were sent there because they were denied access to the park they really wanted to be in. They had to get a permit. They went and got the permit, and it was denied. And so they were told, no, you can only do it in this park. The city knew exactly what it was doing. It sent them to the park that is in the center of the hub of Antifa and LGBTQ activism in the city. In a city which is already leaning left on everything, it sent them to the absolute leftist park they could have gone to. And it went badly. I've got a story here from yahoo.com. A Seattle pastor who was a part of the rally says at the May Day USA rally at Cal Anderson Park in Seattle, this one particular pastor, his name is Russell Johnson. He was there. They were doing things like doing free haircuts and free bike giveaways and free groceries for the community, a time of prayer and worship. They were swarmed by protesters. And get this, the protesters, some of them were throwing urine-filled water balloons. They were filling up water balloons with urine and throwing them at the Christians who were gathered. Guess what the mayor of Seattle, guess who he attributed the blame to?
Probably the Christians
The
who
Christians.
got attacked with those.
Yes, the Christians who were having urine-filled water balloons thrown at them. The Christians who were just gathering to pray under a permit lawfully obtained from the city. The Christians.
That tracks.
Yeah, that's about right. But what we're looking at there is a mayor who, once again, like Nashville, is coddling the opposition, coddling the idea of law and order being brought to bear, and leaving people feeling insecure and unsafe. And it's an absolute mess. But you know, the reality is this: anarchy is a thing. The only way that anarchy can be defeated is for local leaders to actually do their job. That's the thing. Local leaders have got to do their job. They cannot just sit back and go, well, you know, not my problem, because it is your problem. You signed up for it. At the same time, you have got to say, and oh, by the way, we will not allow that to happen in our city. I don't care if you believe like those Christians believed. I don't care, Mayor of Nashville, if you like the idea of illegal immigrants being here. There are laws, and when you raised your right hand and you swore an oath, you swore to protect and defend. You basically to enforce the laws of the jurisdiction in which you are called to serve. And they are just throwing that out. Look at Boston. Boston. Fox News, Dateline Saturday. Fox News embedded exclusively with Immigrations and Customs Enforcement in the greater Boston area. Agents carried out the arrest of hundreds of egregious criminal migrants. Hundreds. I mean, I've seen some of the videos showing up at construction sites, and they are scattering. Have you seen those videos? Scattering.
Yeah, I've seen some in Alabama too. The same thing.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. But ICE deployed dozens of teams across Massachusetts. The head of ICE Boston said it's not uncommon to see immigrants convicted of child rape just roaming the public streets close to where children play. You know why? Because Boston has been a sanctuary city, and because the liberal politics create the anarchy. It's not a matter of people it's about rights and things. No, that's not right. That's not right. Listen, why do you want people who are not even supposed to be here, who are criminal in their intent, to be here hurting the citizens who elected you? None of your citizens want that. And those that do are so few in number that the vast majority would basically shout them down if they give them the opportunity. But for some reason, local leadership believes anarchy is the way forward. Anarchy is the way forward. We got to have more anarchy. We got to flaunt the laws. We got to say no to the idea of law enforcement. We got to mollycoddle the criminals. We got to make things less safe. And one of the ways they're doing that is with this constant stream of, we're going to show Trump. Well, how are you going to do that? How are you going to show Trump? We won't enforce the laws. Well, that's called cutting off your nose to spite your face. I mean, at what point is that? Like, how are you hurting Trump by doing that? Is Trump sitting in the White House going, darn, I feel like less of a man because Nashville's got a putz for a mayor right now? No. I mean, is Trump sitting around shaking in his boots, needing a weekend off at Mar-a-Lago because Seattle, Boston, Nashville won't enforce immigration laws? No. In fact, all he's doing is he's saying, I'm going to take you into court because that's the only way you're going to listen to me.
And, when I think of Boston, I think of blue collar, hardworking folks. I don't think of a city with the liberal policies that its leadership is enacting. But then again, they also put those people into office. So maybe my interpretation is wrong, but I just don't think of, Boston like that. Same with Nashville. I think of Nashville being the capital of one of the reddest states in America. It's it doesn't track. And it's weird, in my opinion.
It is weird. Makes no sense. But then again, liberals rarely make sense.
That's true.
There I am trying to put sense on them. All right, take me to a break, JP. We'll take that break. We'll come right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative and just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades. That's what we're doing. So I got to tell you, I just saw a tweet from a guy named Kyle Becker I follow on Twitter, X. One day I'll stop calling it Twitter, X. But anyway, it says ICE is stalking illegal immigrants to arrest them at court hearings in Dallas. Asylum seekers were seen crying. Trump supporters, did you vote for this? Friggin' right, I did.
Yep,
I mean,
I did as well.
what's the question? I don't understand. Why would you even ask this? Yeah, we voted for it. So let me get this straight. You mean law enforcement is actually seeking out people, knowing full well where they are, and you go there and you arrest them while they're there, and you go, you're under arrest because you're here illegally, and they cry, and you want to know, did we vote for this? Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes, 100%. Yes, surely we did vote for this. Don't you think? I think we did.
Yep. I mean, there's no question about it.
By the way, it's a good tactic. You know where they're going to be. You just show up. I tell you, one of the funniest things I ever saw, and I'm trying to think when this was. They had it was a local DA that was basically, I used to go out and do roundups with my drug task force and that kind of stuff. I would go out, we'd gather at like 4 a.m, do the briefing, and we start hitting houses. And I was a ride along, but several times I was armed and just went with them they'd sworn me in for the day, right? Deputized me. Anyway, and you do this, and that's very labor intensive. I mean, there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of coordination. So this one DA apparently, or maybe the sheriff, they went ahead and put out the word to people they were looking for that they had won a Walmart gift card worth $150. Show up to claim your prize at a certain place. And when they showed up, they were arrested.
Well, that's like that one. It's gone viral nationwide where the police put out a message, like a targeted message to wanted individuals about free Iron Bowl tickets. And they showed up to get free Iron Bowl tickets, and they all got arrested.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
That's epic. And by the way, it's a good stewardship of resources right there.
Yes, exactly.
I don't think that's entrapment. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Adam from Athens says the main difference between Tennessee and Colorado is there's more than likely would have been a good guy with a gun to put that terrorist down. Okay, I was just thinking that a minute ago. You and I were talking about that briefly off the air. Yes, I agree. I think that the fact that they were in a anti-gun state meant that it was less likely that a armed citizen would have been there to defeat the issue. And
it's extremely unfortunate, but I think this is unfortunately a great endorsement for a Second Amendment, because you got a state where it's not as prevalent, and look what happens. The bad guys who have Molotov cocktails, like, all that does is empower those guys, you know? And so I agree. If you're in a place, try walking down the street in, I don't know, somewhere I'd say even in Birmingham, Alabama, even one of the more liberal cities in Alabama, I don't think you're going to get away with it as like you did in Colorado. I mean, like I said, it's very unfortunate, but hopefully, like, this opens people's eyes of, if sometimes you need to take it upon yourself to protect not only yourself but other people.
But I tell you, and first of all, I wasn't there, so I know I wasn't there. However, the videos that I've seen, I look at it and think there's a whole bunch of soy boys that stood around videoing it.
Yep,
just videoing. I'm like, somebody go tackle the guy.
Exactly.
He's over there, standing around ranting about free Palestine, holding the bottle of alcohol in his hand. Somebody go tackle him. And they're all just like, filming. I'll film it. And when the police get here, I'll make sure they know where he is. And I've got to film in case they need it. How about this? Don't let him do it to anybody else.
Yeah, I think if one of the videos, like the main video of it, there's the guy videoing told some people, like, oh yeah, there's somebody hurt over there. Like, yeah, go help him over there while he's filming it. And it's like, yes, I agree.
What was did you see the video? There's one guy who looks like he approached the guy and tried to reason with him or something, but then he came over and yelled at the Jewish people too. Kind of a big heavyset guy with a beard, I think it was. What was his role? Do you have any idea?
I don't. I haven't seen much of the videos. I've seen, brief little clips, but I agree. That was the first thing I thought when I saw that video. It's like what you said. It's like, why are you filming?
Why are you filming?
Do something.
It's what happens on the New York subway.
Mm-hmm.
People get their phone out and film it real quick. I may have a video that somebody would want to watch on my socials next, just stop. Yeah. But anyway, the bottom line is we need more people. We need more sheepdogs. We do. Jeff from Indiana says, I think sanctuary cities should become sanctuaries for federal funding. Yes, yes, and more yes. They want to play that game, let them provide their own funding, says Jeff from Indiana. Perfect. Penny from Athens says, anarchy. I don't know what it is, but I like it. Walker, Texas Ranger from Talladega Nights. Walker and Texas Ranger from Talladega Nights. Yes, thank you very much. I've forgotten that line because I've never seen the movie. John from Lexington, South Carolina says Colorado has actually become a refuge for wealthy liberal Californians, just like Seattle. Oh, good. They're sanctuaries for all the wrong reasons. Bill Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. ruffians out there. You are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. Woo, I mean, it goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border to what we now get to call, once again, finally, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. Oh, by the way, that's just our radio audience. Radio. Not to mention the fact that we got a ton of y'all that watch online with the live stream, pick it up later in the podcast. I'd like to say that anywhere in the whole wide world, you go to the World Wide Web, you can get our show. And there's a bunch of y'all figured that out. And thank you very much for making the show what it is. And we love you and we thank you. In fact, speaking of which, there's Matthew from Washington. Matthew from Washington State checking in, says, hello, Phil and JP. Happy Meatloaf Monday. Matthew from Washington checking in with you in regards to your topic of Seattle. That's exactly why, along with a huge list of other problems here, my wife and I can't get out of here fast enough. Thank you for your prayers on Friday for the quick sale of our house. Y'all take care. Matthew, keep us posted, brother. We're looking for you to come back to the great state of Sweet Home, Alabama. And yeah, blessings on it. All right. So listen, I know that, let me say this. When I started this show, we're almost on our 4-year anniversary. When I started the show 4 years ago, I said I did not want this show to be a place where all we did was get together and complain. I don't, never do. I think it's important to call the balls and strikes. I think it's important to point out things that aren't right and ask for them to be made right. At the same time, I think we've got to maintain the objective ability to recognize when the glass is half full. That being said, I do all I can to make sure that I'm pointing out when things are going right. So I decided, as I began looking at news stories and gathering things up for this dipper, I thought, wow, how can I see this? Oh, that went well. Oh, they fixed that one. What can I? So here's the bottom line. This dipper is now called Fixing Jackassery. There it is. Oh, yeah. I didn't know you were going to do that. That was good.
It's the code word.
It's the code word. Indeed. I said the word and you hit the button. So thank you very much. Speaking of which, you know what? Go ahead and fire me up and the rest of the audience too. Let's make sure we don't have any panicans in the other. Thank you very much. The screaming goat sound effect is still my favorite of all time. All right. So fixing jackassery, what does that mean? What it means is, okay, so in the lexicon of Rightside, in the glossary of defined terms that Rightside uses, we have things like kakistocracy and several other, and jackassery is one of them. Jackassery are decisions, determinations, actions taken by people in their official capacity that is absolutely contrary to common sense and good order. There, I gave you the definition. Jackassery. You are welcome to use it on your next Scrabble board. Jackassery. There it is. Jackassery. Jackassery. Well, we're fixing some. So it's amazing what the Trump administration has gotten done in less than 150 days. But here we are. First one out the gate. Townhall.com. I hold it in my calloused former paratrooper hands. Dateline Friday. Donald Trump took office on January 20th. He made U.S. energy production a top priority for his new administration. Okay, think back to where we were. Gas prices through the roof. Oil reserves, strategic oil reserves, depleted. Suddenly we went from being a net exporter to a net importer of oil and energy. Trump said, no more. We have all the resources we need. In fact, he said basically that we have, how did he word it? I'm going to look at it right now. We have all of the gold under our feet. And he's right. He gave a speech and he said that we're going to be a rich nation again with all the liquid gold that's under our feet to help us do it. So he issued an executive order, a series of them actually. Let me just tell you, that was January 20th he took office. Here we are just what? What are we at? 4.5 months?
Yeah.
February, March, April, May. Yeah. A little over 4 months. Secretaries Doug Burgum and Chris Wright of Energy and the Interior wasted no time on Trump's executive orders. They got busy. U.S. domestic oil production just hit a new record of 13.488 million barrels per day in March of this year. I mean, they did. Listen, that's an applause line right there, I think. I mean, that's huge. Okay. I like it. The angels are singing. This is good. So yeah, in terms of fixing jackassery, what we got right now is our energy sector is being brought online. Not just brought online, records are being set. That, my friends, is awesome. Hey, going back to this illegal immigration thing. Do you gotta? Yeah, I gotta. I love the fact that we have a Department of Homeland Security, Immigration's Customs Enforcement, Customs and Border Patrol, all of whom are like game on. So glad someone's finally got their back. They're doing their jobs. Like, is there an illegal alien? Let's arrest them. Let's just go where they are. We'll find them. And then how about this? It's Colorado again. I just realized it's Colorado again. This story's gross. The story came out last Thursday. Apparently, a 16-year-old illegal immigrant from Colombia only got probation and community service after driving 90 miles per hour in a stolen vehicle with no insurance through a residential neighborhood and killed a young 24-year-old named Caitlin Weaver. Caitlin Weaver died, it's believed, instantly when she was in a high-speed crash. She was driving home from work, talking to her boyfriend on the phone, and this guy's doing 90 miles per hour in his mother's car, who he stole, that also had no insurance. He had, I think, 2 or 3 other juveniles in the vehicle with him. He's an illegal alien himself. And the local DA basically said, we're going to release you on your own recognizance. You're going to get community service and probation. That's awesome. So what did ICE do? Can you imagine?
Wait. I think I know. Oh, wait, no, it didn't play. Sorry, I was going to hit that afuera button, but apparently it didn't work.
Oh, wait.
Afuera.
Try it again, because that's a good one. Is it working?
I don't know if it's working. Nah, I think that's an issue with it.
Wow.
I have to go recalibrate the afuera button.
We can need the afuera button. All right, so the bottom line is, yes, ICE swooped in. ICE said, you know what? That ain't going to stand. So I'm going to bet. I'm going to bet that somebody gave ICE the info they needed to track the person down. I'm just going to bet. But it says that the illegal immigrant teen was arrested by ICE along with his whole family, who were also here illegally, after killing young Caitlin Weaver. Never should have been here, was in a sanctuary state, in probably a sanctuary community, and doing everything wrong. He got the lightest sentence you could possibly imagine. Guess what? ICE said, you know what? Not on our watch, and they fixed it. That's fixing some jackassery. Here's another one. Ilhan Omar really is something else, you know it? I'm just saying.
I think I've known that for quite some time.
I think the world knows that. She's one of those you look at and go, how did you get elected? What was the appeal? Pray tell, what stump speech did you make that caused people to go, I want her to be my congresswoman? But nonetheless, Town Hall has an article that says that Ilhan Omar is actually very upset right now. Very upset because the big, beautiful bill has an entire provision that would defund Planned Parenthood. It already passed the House. It did. It's headed to the Senate. We'll see what happens. But right now, Planned Parenthood and Ilhan Omar are freaking out. Town Hall has the article pointing out that pro-lifers are particularly hopeful that Planned Parenthood, which performs more abortions than any other entity in the country, has taken in an increasing amount of taxpayer dollars, will actually get defunded this time. So in like a 9-day period, Planned Parenthood's Action Fund released like 10 press releases freaking out about the bill. And they did it in 2 languages, English and Spanish. Okay. They say this impact will be devastating. Up to 200 healthcare centers will be at risk of closing. 1.1 million patients could lose their healthcare. Here's an idea. If your entire organization is so dependent upon federal dollars that you not getting those Fed dollars is going to cause you to shut down 200 of your locations, I would dare say your business model was flawed to begin with. You were dependent upon something you never should have had. And once it was gone, you had no replacement, no substitute. And so now, guess what, Planned Parenthood? You're going to wind up having to build the better mousetrap like the rest of the private sector actually does. Because Sugar Daddy may be on his way out the door. I don't know. We'll see. It's something to watch. All right, I got a slew of these. Let me get a couple of text messages and I'll come right back. But I love the fact that we are fixing that. I'd love to see Planned Parenthood defunded. I think that would be an epic win. That would be like a trophy to hang on the wall. Tom from Decatur checks in. He says, I find it strange that SCOTUS is now going to take up the banning of AR-15s this session. Oh, what, really? Is that because they are worried about Americans being able to protect themselves from these savages? If the Constitution gives the citizens of this country the right to vote, a right to raise a, quote, well-armed militia, shotguns and target rifles will hardly meet that criteria. Yeah, I have not seen that. Whether or not we can own an AR-15, I will have a problem with that. Tom from Decatur, if you got a story on that, let me know or send me the link. I'd appreciate it. Do you know anything about that?
I don't, but all I was going to say is if your party's standpoint is to flood the nation with dangerous people and then take away Americans' ability to protect themselves from such dangerous people, connect the dots there, what the party wants, I guess. Instability, maybe? Yeah, I would say.
Holy smokes. Dave from Decatur checking in. He says, I'm driving. I had to find a place to stop. There is a movie, comedy with Dom DeLuise about rounding up the criminals called Hot Stuff. That may have to get looked at. It'd be nice if we could find an audio clip for that one.
So apparently the U.S. Supreme Court declined to review 2 cases challenging gun control laws in Maryland and Rhode Island today on June 2nd, 2025.
Declined to review them as in terms of upholding lower court rulings that were against the Second Amendment?
I mean, it says these cases involve challenges to a Maryland ban on assault-style weapons, including AR-15s, and a Rhode Island restriction on large-capacity magazines. It says the court's decision leaves these bans in place.
I don't understand that. It does not mean the case is over. What it means is there's likely an injunction of some type. I'll have to take a look at it. Dang. Sometimes I wonder, do we have a conservative court? We'll get a Roe v. Wade decision, and then they'll turn around and do something like that. Okay, listen, I'm taking a break and coming right back. I got more of this. Fixing the jackassery? Yes, we are. We got things happening right now that have never been able to happen before. Like, for instance, what's going on with transgenders in sports? I'll tell you. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Man, making common sense like a superpower. Kimball from Harvest says, Phil, we shouldn't be surprised why people like Ilhan Omar are elected and reelected. People keep voting for the leftist agenda because they're completely uninformed about what it means. They don't care about an open border, inflation, lawlessness, the LGBTQ agenda, and everything else that's surged in the last several years because they don't think it affects them. They're misguided and radicalized in their personal beliefs, large numbers of Americans. Well, that's, you know what, Kimball, that's a pretty astute observation. I will say I think some of them are absolutely in for it, like they want that. But I agree with you. I think there's what Rush Limbaugh used to often call the low information voter. You know, they go to the polls. I don't know. I mean, I don't believe in that whole party stuff. I mean, I'm just going to, who would I vote for? I know that name. I think I know that name. I think I saw them on TV one time. I think, okay, I'll vote for that one. That's who you voting for, man. I don't know what you gonna do. I'm gonna vote for this. Are you do? Okay, that's good enough for me. That's how people vote.
Yeah, it's the lazy, uninformed vote, but also nationwide, Christians not being participating in elections leads to the Ilhan Omars getting elected. It's the passiveness and the I don't want to get, who cares, sort of thing.
The passiveness. I mean, and I understand things can happen. Sometimes you like you had an accident or something truly kept you from the polls, and that does happen. But what's amazing to me is people that are like, oh shoot, I forgot to go vote. I mean, I can tell you right now, being an elected official, don't ever tell your friend who ran for office you forgot to vote. I've had that happen. I won both times, so I was okay. But I think I told you multiple times on the show, I know I've said it. I have a friend who lost a city council election literally by 9 votes. We discovered that I think 5 more votes should have counted in her favor or something like that. And then she found out, but it still wasn't enough. Then we found out, though, that I think 3 couples that are friends of hers all forgot to go vote. That would have changed the entire election.
That's just, yeah.
The entire election.
People get so caught up. I think the presidential election is the only election that matters, I guess. But your local elections and then the people you send to Congress to represent you, in my opinion, that adds up to matter even more. Yeah,
it does. Absolutely does. All right. Scott from Athens says, nothing worse than a warmongering, subversive, militant. Okay, I can't say that. What are we? Thank you for shutting me down. Okay, so thank you for that tweet that I can't read on the air. But anyway, he doesn't like Lindsey Graham. John C. from Madison says, I have one of my employees that agreed with everything I said by being a conservative, yet he never voted. He said it doesn't really matter at all. Oh, it does matter. Let me, John C., I tell you what. I mean, I can tell you localized stories. I can tell you about a guy that I served with in state senate who ran for re-election in 2020, who lost an entire state senate district by 1 vote. An entire state senate district by 1 single vote. But then you can also look, let's go back to John C., tell him this. Go back to Bush v. Gore. So when George W. Bush, and literally, I don't care what people think George W. Bush was super conservative or not. He was better than Al Gore. And I got to ask, think about what would have happened if 9/11 had occurred and it was Al Gore who had been president. Well, that entire election came down to 1 county in 1 state, something like 360 votes for the nation to be decided, for the entire nation. Can you imagine? So I think it was Dade County, Florida. We had the whole thing. They called it hanging chads. They had this jacked up way of voting where you actually pressed a sharp object through the paper to poke a hole and then it read the poked holes. Except some people, poked like limp-wristed individuals. Like, is that a real poke? We can't tell if it's a real poke. And so whatever the little piece of paper is that's flipped out the back where you poked, it was called a hanging chad.
I did a school project on it, actually.
Did you really?
I did, yeah.
A school project? How so?
Well, it was in my history class, and I think we each got an election. I think it was like controversial elections to do a presentation on or something, and I got the Hanging Chad's election.
Was this that smoking liberal teacher you had?
Yeah, she actually voted for Bernie. And was proud about it. And I remember one time one of my conservative classmates asked her about the Hillary email scandals, and the teacher went off and said that Hillary didn't deserve to be prosecuted because she didn't do it on purpose.
Didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, it was that teacher. But yeah, it was her class
Something called criminal negligence.
Yeah. But yeah, I did a whole project on the Hanging Chads.
Well, think about this. The Hanging Chads decided the whole election. Everything. An entire, like millions and millions and millions of votes were hanging in the balance for what? Up a month? How long did it take?
It was, a month, sadly, I think. It was longer than that.
Like 5 or 6 weeks, I believe. But they had to count, recount, and then they had to examine. The ones they weren't sure of, they had to set them aside, didn't they? And do them again.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to have people, and it had to be a team, 2 people, and both look at it. Is it a Hanging Chad? I think it is. Who's it count for? Well, that's going to be a George W. Bush. The entire nation, John C. from Madison, tell your worker, your employee needs to understand that the entire nation came down to 360 votes in one county in Florida. What would have happened if they hadn't done it? I'm saying. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. just said. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Welcome to hour number 3. Hour number 3 on a Meatloaf Monday. I don't know where the first 2 hours just went, but yeah, hour number 3 here on a Meatloaf Monday, and I'm actually struggling to believe this June. June, JP, June.
I had that same thought yesterday. I feel like it was February, like 2 weeks ago.
By the way, I'm also thankful that I'm seeing fewer rainbow flags for the month of June right now.
Still too much for my own liking, but
Yeah. I've only got one flag that I support, and that's the one that's hanging on the wall right here in the studio.
I'm a massive MMA junkie, and there's the original MMA organization called Pride, like the first organization with no rules at all. And I saw somebody post, it was like Happy Pride Month, just had a Pride logo of the original. I was like, all right, I can get behind that.
That one works?
Yeah, that's good. But
Okay.
yeah, all the ones I know, it's too much.
Several text messages before I kick back off again. Chris from Priceville says, every vote counts. I was in a runoff with a 35-year incumbent. Wow. If those few friends would have showed up to vote, the outcome could have been very different. I lost by 20 votes. Wow. Hey, Chris, tell me what office you ran for. I'd appreciate knowing, but thank you very much for jumping in the fray, man. Glad of it. 35-year incumbent. I almost think I know what we're talking about, but okay. Marshall from Dubai says, wow, this is a long one. He says, see what I can do here. He says, Phil, years ago, I was in Portland doing security for an event. I was tasked with doing the advance and setting up the place. Unbeknownst to me, across the street in Holiday Park, Antifa was doing their usual crap. He said, our liaison failed to give me the info about Antifa. That's another story for another time. He said, my boss came to me and said, I'm going to need you to get your box of boom and be downstairs like yesterday. Something might pop off, and I want you down there, making sure those animals don't get inside the hall. Wow. He said, my box of boom was a hardtop flight case that held my AR-15, my Glock 40, and a plethora of loaded magazines. As I walked in to get my toys, I feel like I'm reading a dime store novel. He says, I walked in to get my toys. These unarmed security guards were shocked, and I had brought my box of party favorites. One of them asked me, if they breach the building, are you really going to shoot them? How do you determine to use lethal force? As I slapped a 30-round magazine into the receiver and chambered around, I said, I don't make the determination to use lethal force. They do. Awesome. I am loving this text. He said, besides, what use are you people? Are you unarmed guys? All you unarmed guys are just useless. Just get in the corner in the fetal position and let daddy and the boys take care of the situation. He says, fortunately, the Portland police kept them across the street. Love the show, he says. Keep up the good fight. Oh, and one last thing, he says. True happiness is a belt-fed weapon and an endless supply of ammo. Marshall, I had no idea, brother, but I am digging it. Thank you very much. Wow, that was a fairly epic text. Chris from Priceville said it was Priceville City Council. Wow. Dude, you had somebody on the city council in Priceville for 35 years? I guarantee you they felt like they owned that position too. Like it was theirs. Like, how dare you run against them? I guarantee it. I've seen that. It's unbelievable. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, I found you a new phone system guaranteed to work. What has he got? 2 tin cans with a string. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Love you, man. JR from Rogersville says, Colonel, listen to your comments concerning the mayor in Washington State. I listened to his comments when he stated that the values of the Christians assembled at the venue permitted by the city, quote, do not reflect or represent the values of his constituents. I did see that. He said, God has a place for those whose values do not agree or differ with the values espoused by and hopefully live up to by the Christians. He said, I personally fall short of the glory of God's, or fall short of the deserving of God's grace. I take solace in knowing that it is by faith and not living the perfect life that grace has given. Listen to you when I can. Respectfully, Master Sergeant JR from Rogersville. Appreciate you, Master Sergeant, U.S. Air Force retired. Thanks for your service. What were you saying a minute ago about the election? Something you were going to say when we came back on the air.
I just, we were talking about people who forget to vote or too lazy to vote,
Yeah.
or, it's, what's it going to matter or whatever. I don't know. I think it's a good reminder about how many people died for you to have that right to vote, and how many people globally don't have that right to vote. And I just thought about that story you told, that one monologue you did about, I believe it was in Iraq, where the first elections were being held in an area, and just how stoked they were to actually, cast a vote for the first time.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I guess people need to have a pleasant reminder that not everybody globally gets the right to vote. And it's a privilege. So
there's a picture of me out and about. I mean, I see it. It shows up sometimes, and it's one that we actually use in my campaigns. But I'm standing there in full battle rattle, and I'm actually outside of Baghdad City Hall, guarding it along with, a company of infantry guarding it for the first free mayoral elections. And the way they did their elections was a little different. People were elected to be almost like electoral college. They sent their representatives to City Hall to then vote on who was going to be mayor from that group. But it was still an election. And Mayor Al Tamimi, who I thought was a jerk, actually, but Mayor Al Tamimi won the first free mayoral election while I was there. I helped guard the process. But yeah, not long after that, they held the first like nationwide elections, and the way they had to do it because we didn't have, they didn't have all of the protections in place like picture ID and all that kind of stuff. So they dipped their finger in indelible blue ink, and it was a thing. I mean, if your finger was blue, because it wouldn't wash off for days. If your finger was blue, you couldn't vote again. So around the nation, it would show up. It was tell them where you're from, dip your finger in the ink, cast your vote. And they'd walk out, and the big blue finger was like a symbol of victory. People were walking around showing their blue finger because they had actually been allowed to vote and have some measure of self-determination.
Hey, you know what? That sounds almost like a better system than we have to keep elections secure.
Yeah. And maybe you're talking about the time too that I was in that district council meeting and they voted to replace somebody, and it just like broke out in laughter and clapping because they voted on something. Yeah, people don't realize what we got. All right, let me wrap up this fixing of jackassery. That's a big deal. It's even got a sound effect. There it is. We're fixing we're bringing that mule in line, baby. So the jackassery. I got several things here. Which one do I want first? How about this one? I'll go with this. I don't know if you saw it or not, but the transgender athlete thing is it's almost like there are certain areas where they're trying hard now to make sure the transgender athletes win. In fact, this past weekend in California, I believe, at a track event where a transgender athlete just swept several events, took the gold, and the girls who were second, third, and should have been third, but fourth, would not take the podium with them. And so then there was this angst about, well, that's poor sportsmanship, not take it. And the others are like, why should they take the podium? That guy shouldn't even be up there. That's a dude. However, we're starting to see a chink in the armor. I got a story here. I don't know if you've seen this or not. I pulled this one off of, this is an AP story out of Sacramento. But California, it says, is actually opening up its high school track and field championships to more girls after a transgender athlete drew controversy for qualifying. The story came out last Thursday. The California Interscholastic Federation says it will now allow one extra competitor in 3 events. So here's what they're doing. Basically, you usually have the gold, silver, and bronze, right? And the gold, silver, and bronze qualify to go up to the state meets. And what they're saying now is California's like, geez, what do we do? We can't not let the transgender compete because that defeats the narrative we've been living for years. Here's what we'll do. We'll just we'll bend the rules and we'll let the 4th place girl in a competition where one of the first 3 was a transgender also go forward. That'll help it. It's like they're admitting it and trying to fix it, but yet not really admitting it.
Moving chairs on the Titanic.
And it's a partial fix.
It's ridiculous.
But here's the thing. At the very least, they're starting to see we've got a serious problem here because that whole narrative about how this doesn't happen very often is really not playing out quite well.
I saw one of a track and field girl or dude who told his critics that they should get a life for critiquing him participating in girls' sports.
Okay. Most of them have a life. We question your life. That's the problem. Yeah. Anyway, the bottom line is California is now starting to say, okay, here's what we'll do. If you finished in 4th place and 1st, 2nd, and/or 3rd was a dude transgender, then you get to go forward to the state meet too. Good luck. On the one hand, you're like, I think something has happened. On the other, you're like, that was pretty tepid.
Yeah, all that shows to me is like what you said. They're caught with their pants down and they're too scared to turn back around and fix things. And
that's the wrong analogy.
You know what I mean? Caught red-handed. I don't know. They got caught and they're afraid to fix it. So,
okay, here's one for you. You ever heard of Job Corps? Fixing the jackassery. We're going to come back from this break and I'm going to tell you about Job Corps. Now, I have spoken at Job Corps graduations. I have toured Job Corps facilities as a state senator. They do some interesting things. I did not know it was what it is. Holy cow. Wait till you find out what Doge found out about Job Corps. Phil Williams fixing the jackassery. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. Creek from Decatur says Mayor Cooper was a crazy liberal as well. He went and stood with the rioters while others were harassed for being outside during COVID. Wow. Said, I watched the rioters smash the windows of cars with an elderly couple. I saw them attack police cars and try to burn the courthouse. You don't let an officer catch you outside walking along the river. Nashville has had 3 bad mayors in a row, and it's becoming another Austin, Texas. Golly, Creek, I hate to hear that. Jay from Hartselle says, sell California to Mexico, eliminate the deficit with profits. Problem solved. Oh, does Mexico even want it back? Bobby from Huntsville says, why don't they just have a transgender category, especially for them? If there are more transgenders, they compete against each other. There's only one way you do not get to compete with not transgenders. I don't know. Listen, how about this? Let's stop pretending that transgenderism is real. Paul from Decatur says, hey, Colonel, it's Paul in Decatur. I heard you talk about the election in Iraq. I saw people going to the polls in Mosul, Iraq in 0405 in carts, donkeys, cars, trucks, wheelbarrows, leather personnel carrier shoes, anything that got them to the polls. Yeah, isn't that amazing? Thanks for your service, man. Appreciate you. Last couple of stories in this fixing jackassery, because y'all, we are seeing things getting fixed. It's amazing. How about this? I did not know that Job Corps was so ate up. I mean, like ate up like a soup sandwich. I mean, like ate up. So Job Corps, I'd always thought was kind of neat from the outside looking in. You might think so. Kids go and they live there. They you know, a lot of these kids are troubled or they come from disadvantaged backgrounds and they're taught a trade. They get their GED. What I did not know was Job Corps' success has been very questionable for quite a while, mostly because contractors get the opportunity to run the Job Corps programs. They make a mint off of it, like a lot of money off of it. In the meantime, Job Corps is not really producing a lot of kids that go out into the workforce and do big things. So contractors, including large for-profit companies, operate 99 of the Job Corps 131 facilities, collectively housing up to 25,000 students. What's also amazing, though, is we're looking at very often Job Corps spends more on a kid per year than it costs to go to Harvard. And they come out with results that really don't have a lot of success. Daily Wire reported in April that Job Corps spends up to $764,000 per graduate, while most participants go on to earn roughly $17,000 a year. Whew. 1/3 of them simply disappear. 1/3 are expelled for serious misconduct, and the remaining third graduate. That's not a good return on the investment. I mean, I'd look at it and think, wow, what are we gonna do? Well, the fixing of it is the Trump administration is going to be in a phased pause of $2 billion that were set aside for Job Corps because their dubious record has been ongoing now for decades, and no one has stepped in to say enough of that. I mean, at some point you have to look at it and go, I get it, neat idea, but are we really spending U.S. tax dollars the way we should? And the short answer of this one is no, we're not. Last one for the break. Finish out this particular dipper. The Trump administration, according to Red State. I saved one of the best for last as we're fixing things. Dateline, Friday. There will be no more diversity hires in the federal government. May I have some applause? Oh, that too. The angels have spoken. This past Thursday, the Office of Personnel Management sent out new guidelines for hiring, calling it the Merit Hiring Plan. I'm loving this. This plan was written to implement the Chance to Compete Act, passed in late 2024. The Merit Hiring Plan prohibits consideration of race and sex in hiring decisions. No more DEI hires. No more diversity takes place. You know, it takes triumph over, or what am I trying to say? Trumps the idea of hiring the right person. The fact that we have to say yay to this, the fact that we're fixing levels of jackassery like this is a clear indication of where we've been the last few years. But the end result for us is how candidates are going to be assessed to work for the federal government is clearly based upon whether they merit the job or not. actual skills, actual qualifications, defined in advance. Who is the best one? Who does the best in the interview? Who does it make sense to hire? And so anyway, fixing the jackassery, there's that one. Be encouraged, my friends. Be very encouraged. We are watching right now as jackassery is being sent out to the field. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, we're going to come back from the break here momentarily, and we're going to jump into the last dipper of the day. We got to talk about this thing with Ukraine. I'm not sure if you saw all that happened this past weekend, but the wars and rumors of wars that I've got right now on this next dipper, it's pretty significant. And I'm gonna try to launch it with a discussion about what happened with Ukraine, because Ukraine just did something that was extremely novel, was extremely effective, was absolutely innovative, and to put the wood to Russia. At the same time, you look at it and go, oh my gosh, is this going to kill the peace talks? Well, Russia just targeted them last week. So what we're looking at right now is both sides are allegedly coming to the table to have peace negotiations right now as we speak. I think they're meeting in Istanbul, and both sides are like basically swinging punches on their way to the table, like in a big way. It's interesting for me to watch this and think that the great Russian bear, I'm a Cold War era guy, the great Russian bear, the former Soviet Union, is struggling to get past the border regions of Ukraine. At the same time, this war's got to get over with. We'll talk about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This show. It goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden, all the way down to that lovely little village on the plains called Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we now get to call once again Fort Benning. Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. So that's just the radio audience, by the way. That's not even counting all y'all that go out there in the big wide world, go to the World Wide Web, tune in via live streaming on the show or picking it up by podcasting afterwards. And I just thank you. We thank you more than you could possibly know. We thank you. Thank you for making the show what it is. This is the reason why JP and I sit in front of the microphone every day. All right, so we're going to kick off Dipper number 3 as we wind up the last half hour here of today's show on a Meatloaf Monday. So Ukraine staged a major attack this past weekend. You may recall that Russia launched a major attack on, it was actually ballistic missiles and drones just, I think, a week ago. And it was seen as a major escalation. You may remember that you had Trump calling out Putin on it, saying basically he's crazy. I don't know what he's doing right now. Well, what he was doing was trying to say, I'll go to the peace table and talk, but just so you understand, I'm the biggest dog on the block. We sit down at that table. I'm the one that can still launch missiles. That's exactly what he was doing. Well, this past weekend, wow. In a move that really caught the world off guard, and especially caught Russia off guard, Newsmax has the piece, Dateline yesterday. A Ukrainian drone attack has destroyed more than 40 Russian planes deep in Russia's territory. This is amazing on several levels. It was an extremely complicated and clandestine effort. It was extremely well orchestrated. It was extremely high technology. It also involved an extreme level of intelligence because they had to know exactly where these planes were sitting. And by the way, these weren't just planes. They took out 41 bombers stationed at several Russian, so different airfields. They were all over the place, including one that was like 2,500 miles from Ukraine. They did it by drones that were hidden inside of shipping containers. And I'll describe it to you real quickly. These shipping containers were inside Russia. They were built inside Russia so that there wouldn't be seen a shipment coming across the border. They literally took a shipping container, like the big metal containers you see coming off of these ships. They fixed them so that the tops would come off, and there was a layer inside where they were packed with drones for the use of a drone swarm. These were first-person view drones, like the kind where someone flies it from a distance. So hundreds of miles away, in Ukraine, they activated these shipping container roofs that were literally on Russian trucks. Like they hired them. They looked like a company. They were doing things inside of Russia. They were packing them up, getting them ready to go ship it out. And they've got the Russian trucks driving them. And then while they're going down the road, all of a sudden the top comes open remotely. Drones come flying out. They soar across the skies, and they literally blew up multiple, like almost over 3 dozen Russian bombers and surveillance aircraft. The kind of aircraft that are not going to be replaced anytime soon. This was a huge blow. I've got a piece. Are you ready for that piece? I've got an audio clip from General Jack Keane. General Jack Keane, who's usually got some of those incisive foreign policy and national security dialogue of anybody out there. He was doing a segment this morning. I heard it firsthand on Fox when he was on with Bill Hemmer. He said this was a brilliant exercise in military strategy and action. And I've got a clip here. We'll play it. I'll just tell you when to stop. All right, go ahead and hit it, JP.
from what I understand, they were driving semi-trucks in different parts of Russia. Some of this in the far eastern part of the country that would really not expect a hit in that part. And they launched drones from these trucks as they were mobile. General, sometimes in these conflicts, they only subside when both sides are tired of fighting.
Did we do?
Do you get it that we've reached that point on behalf of Ukraine and Russia?
Well, certainly Ukrainians are going to continue to fight as long as there's Russian troops on their ground. Even if the United States and Europe pulled away and eventually Russia would topple Ukraine, the Ukrainians will continue to fight. They'll fight them as long as Russian troops are there. And that's just the reality of it. Russia is not giving up the fight because they believe they can win. Even though 39 months into this thing, they haven't been able to the Nazis in Europe.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's really quite remarkable. But to underscore this drone strike, to say it's brilliant may be a little bit of an understatement. 5 airfields were targeted, 4 were successful. 2 of those airfields, one was in Siberia to the east, and another one was actually close to China. 3 of them were in the western part of Russia, one really quite north. Targeting bombers that are used either in the strikes against civilians and also against ground troops in Ukraine, and they deliver ones in the east. We can't verify whether they've been used in Ukraine or not, but they certainly would be used to replace the damaged bombers that are in the west and much closer to Ukraine. The operation is brilliant because the Ukrainians contracted Russian drivers. They drove the trucks. No Ukrainians involved. They contracted Russian containers. They assembled those Russian containers inside of Russia. We can't verify that they were using actually Russian component parts to do that assembly. And there were Russian trucks involved in all of that. There were no Ukrainians involved in the operation on the ground once the trucks left the area where they were assembled. And they pulled into an off-ramp, like not as full as a truck stop, but a place that we see truckers stop. And obviously that was a designated location. It was close to the airfields, and it was from there that the drones were launched remotely.
All right, stop there.
Vehicles.
We understand right now. We understand right now that this is a year and a half in the making, a year and a half of planning. I've got a story here from the BBC that also talks about the fact that this was extremely cost effective. All right. BBC starts off by saying it's hard to exaggerate the sheer audacity or ingenuity that went into Ukraine's countrywide assault on Russia's air force. And we cannot possibly verify Ukrainian claims, but it's clear that what they called Operation Spider's Web was at the very least a spectacular propaganda coup. See, that's the other thing. I don't know if y'all are studies of history, but during World War II, the United States launched what became known as Doolittle's Raid. If you're not familiar, Colonel Jimmy Doolittle and a crew of, I think they were flying B-25 Mitchells, which was a small to mid-sized bomber. They had to do a lot of work to get this happen, but they launched them from the deck of a carrier. There was no way for them to reach Japan proper, except if they got close enough by means of an aircraft carrier. And oh, by the way, that aircraft carrier was barely big enough for them to get the kind of momentum they needed to get good lift for takeoff. And even still, you couldn't get many of them on the deck. But they launched from that aircraft carrier and struck Japan and struck fear into the people of Japan. Truthfully, the damage that was caused was not near the damage that was caused by the propaganda, or excuse me, the messaging that came out of it. In fact, we lost almost all the bombers were lost because they did not have the ability to refuel. And so some of them were actually put down, some of them crash landed, some crews were taken captive. But Doolittle's raid struck fear in the hearts of the people of Japan and the Japanese government. It changed the dynamic. That's exactly what they're saying has happened now. Although I will say this, what we're watching right now from the bomb damage assessment is that there was a major blow struck. So what does that mean for us? Well, that means that both sides are now going into the peace negotiations, and both sides are walking with their chin stuck up in the air because they believe that they are the big ones at the table. I think what you're also seeing is you've essentially got Ukraine saying, you know what? You said we only had 6 months to live. How do you like us now? I don't know what's going to derail the negotiations. I think if anything, what it may wind up doing is it makes sure that Russia understands that we may have to deal with this. It struck me, one of the things that Jack Keane said that I really thought was amazing was 39 months of war. He said, we're at the level of what it took to try and defeat Nazi Germany for all of World War II in the length of time that this war has dragged on. That's amazing. And I recognize that the United States government has fueled this war to some degree by consistently writing checks to the Ukrainians. And I don't like the Russians. I don't want them to win. I don't appreciate the fact that they decided they wanted something next door. But I do know this war has got to end sometime soon, because what we're watching right now is Europe sitting on the brink of, a deeply concerning moment when both sides are literally trading blows. At this point, both sides have gotten the other on the ropes at one point now. That was an epic move by the Ukrainians. Anyway, there's that. We're going to take a break right now. We'll come right back. Last break of a Meatloaf Monday. Last break of a Meatloaf Monday. Can you smell the meatloaf from here? I can. Bill Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Like, man, making common sense like a superpower. All right, so Bert from Owens Crossroads checking in. He says, Office of Personnel Management. He said, OPM. One example of OPM screwing things up years ago was their screening of pilot applicants. He said the minimum requirement for the job was a commercial pilot license with instrument and multi-engine ratings. We can understand why several of our friends who had a higher airline transport pilot rating were not making the cut. Turned out, nobody in OPM had a clue. And then he said, I got the Dear John letter after I applied and got the higher position within customs. By the way, Bert's got some amazing stories, but yeah, I have no doubt. But I'm loving the idea of merit hiring now. That's what he's referring back to, that part of that monologue, I mean, that dipper a minute ago. Joe from Elkmont says, do you remember when Ukraine used drones to drop thermite in the wood lines to flush out the Russians? I do not, but I don't doubt it. And then Fritzy from Huntsville. Fritzy from Huntsville says, Colonel, cat's out of the bag. What's keeping a U.S. advisory from doing the same type of complex attack, utilizing the thousands of Chinese containers? Do we have any method to scan containers? I don't know. You're asking me what I don't know, but I'll be honest with you. Swarm drones, counter UAS right now is a big deal. Unmanned aerial systems. If you can do UAS defeat work right now, you've got all the contracts in the world because it's a major national security issue. And Ukraine just pointed out clearly how easy, well, not easy, but how it can work. Hey, let me do this. So we figured it out last week. We made the connection. Our phone lines are still not working correctly, but we have this special thing called Clean Feed that we can send to people and get a computerized link. And so guess who's on the line right now using Clean Feed connection? Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I got a couple 10 cans if you can supply enough wire to get from here to Alabama. Maybe we can talk on the phone.
Well, it sounds like you're talking to a tin can right now, brother, but can you hear me all right?
Oh, no. Oh, I hear you just fine. Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't know.
Jeff, rejoin the Clean Feed. I'm going to kick him out.
All right. We're going to kick you out of the Clean Feed and bring you right back in, man, while I get the grades from John. So try it one more time. I know he's mobile, so that's going to be part of it. John from Huntsville has the grades in, though. He says Phil and Matt Murphy both get an A double plus for their fantastic performances, but today's winner with a perfect A triple plus is obviously the sound effect king, JP, for his magnificent sound effect skills. Congratulations. JP, you're the winner, by the way.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
You have just pushed those buttons quite ably today. All right, let me go back to it. Jeff Rowe, are you there?
He's struggling to log in.
Is he trying to log in? This thing is hard when you're mobile. I can't imagine. Is he there? Not here. Oh, rats. Okay. We'll keep dealing with it. If he calls back in, we'll do it. We got to get these phones to them, man. Sometime soon we're going to have a replacement. But it's a heck of a thing to have all this equipment. We could usually launch missiles from in here, and all of a sudden we can't make a phone call. We'll get it figured out. By the way, I got to tell you, is he back?
There you go.
All right, I'll tell you.
Yes, I am.
Jeff Rowe, are you there?
I am here.
Oh, that's a good connection. Now we got you. There you go. All right, man.
All right.
Where are you out on the road right now?
But just about Goodlettsville, Tennessee. So I'm almost out of the madness.
All right. Well, good deal. Well, I guess you heard earlier me talking about the mayor of Nashville and what a jackwagon he is.
Yeah, it's like I've always said. You can drag a liberal to wisdom, but you can't make them think. So they're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again until it absolutely, if you don't promote the businesses in Nashville here, it does.
Oh, that is hard, man. I think the mayor of Nashville has cut off his feed. That's what
it don't really affect.
I think the mayor of Nashville has cut off his feed. All right, man. Hard to do Clean Feed while you're on a strike, Jeff. We love you. Cut that one off because it came back at like a double feed echo. All right, listen, I will just go ahead and do this. Let me finish out. I had a couple more things that I was going to point out in this whole dipper on wars and rumors of wars. I will tell you this. It is not a safe world out there, but I do take heart with the fact that we have right now an administration that is gainfully and in an epic fashion putting us back into a posture where we are better prepared for the day. Now, I think we have to keep our eyes open. And I think somebody has pointed out, who's it, Fritzy from Huntsville? Fritzy from Huntsville just pointed out that the ability for foreign nationals to strike at America with drone control is definitely there. And we've got to keep like a close watch on all of it. But there's other things happening on the big scale. CBS News has a new piece. In fact, I got another one. Let me pull out the New York Times. I'll say this real quick. Yeah, New York Times piece. The U.S. sent Iran a new proposal on a nuclear deal amid reports of their uranium enrichment being ramped up. So New York Times, Dateline, Saturday. The United States presented its first formal proposal to Tehran for elements of the nuclear deal on Saturday, just hours after UN inspectors reported a major surge over the past 3 months in the size of Tehran's stockpile of near-bomb grade uranium. It's more than enough right now for dirty bombs. It's almost enough right now in terms of its enrichment capability for it to become nuclear. President Trump has made it clear that Iran can never obtain a nuclear bomb, says Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary. Special Envoy Witkoff has sent a detailed and acceptable proposal to the Iranian regime. It's in their best interest to accept it. I think this is one of the flashpoints to watch right now on the world stage. You gotta keep your eyes on this one. We'll talk about it more as the week develops. But right now, Iran has been given a proposal by the Trump administration and told, we will not allow you to go nuclear. At the same time, they are enriching like crazy right now, as if they're trying to get there real quick before anybody can do anything about it. More to come on that one, but I'm just telling you, wars and rumors of wars, keep your eyes on the horizon, my friends. Keep a weather eye out at all times.